Hello. I wish to extend to all of you my prayers and blessings in this Easter season. Lent, Holy Week, and the celebration of our Lord's resurrection from the dead remind us not only of Jesus Christ's journey here on earth, but also of our own journey as his followers. My pastoral letter, published last fall, A Future Full of Hope, addressed a part of that journey. At this critical time in our history as a diocese, it is essential that we reflect upon our current reality as the local church and establish a vision for future ministry. A major component of creating this vision is the process of parish review, which we have entitled Planning Tomorrow's Parishes. Several months ago, I introduced Planning Tomorrow's Parishes to the people of the Diocese of Saginaw. Among the many goals expressed were the desire to enhance the vibrancy of parish life throughout the diocese and the need to strengthen the presence and ministry of the Church in both the urban and rural areas. To achieve these goals, our diocese and parishes must comprehensively assess our current strengths, weaknesses, and resources. Among the many challenges we face are a diminished population, fewer priests, and limited financial resources. This planning process is not easy or without serious consequences. Every parish is involved in and will be affected by these deliberations. All parishes are being asked to cooperate more fully with their neighboring parishes. In some instances, this will mean sharing programs and personnel. Some parishes will need to merge with neighboring parishes in order to form a completely new parish and begin a new history. To accomplish this task of planning for the future, each parish formed a parish core team composed of the pastor or administrator and 3 parishioners. Each team began by identifying and evaluating the gifts and strengths which contribute to making their parish vibrant and effective. They also had to identify and acknowledge the challenges and shortcomings which inhibit their ability to effectively accomplish the work of evangelization. The core teams were asked to examine 4 major areas or criteria for assessing the vibrancy of a parish: the sacramental life of the parish, stewardship and justice, evangelization, which includes catechesis, Catholic schools, and lifelong religious education, and effective administration. For several months, parish core teams have been engaged in this self-evaluation. To achieve the broadest sense of the status of the parish, the level of consultation has varied from parish to parish. Many core teams consulted with the parish pastoral and finance councils, distributed questionnaires, and conducted town hall meetings in order to inform parishioners of the process as well as gather observations and ideas. Currently, nearly 600 people are formally involved in this phase, including core team members, facilitators, and diocesan staff. In addition, thousands of parishioners have participated in parish meetings and questionnaires. Naturally, a great deal of emphasis was given to the gifts and strengths of each parish. This was to be expected. Parishioners are very proud of their history and varied ministries, and rightfully so. On the other hand, it has been more difficult for parishioners to admit the limitations and weaknesses of parish life. In those instances where the parishioners are able to honestly assess these issues, the planning process is more factual and realistic, and will prove to be effective. The desired outcome is to establish parishes which are stronger, reinvigorated, liturgically alive, and more deeply focused on the work of evangelization. Nonetheless, many core team members and parishioners are concerned that this planning process could substantially alter their time-honored parish life and even require of them the need to merge with neighboring parishes. For this reason, there may have been, and still could be, a hesitancy, even a resistance, to fully embrace the process or to evaluate honestly the disadvantages and limitations of their parish. If the parishes and the diocese as a whole are to emerge from this study in a position of strength and vibrancy, if we are to be positioned to answer the call to be ministers of the new evangelization, candor and courage are essential. While parish core teams continue to evaluate the status of their respective parishes, we have transitioned into the next phase of the planning process involving cohorts. Every parish is now working with neighboring parishes in order to consider ways of sharing resources and ministries. These groupings, which range from 3 to 7 parishes, are called cohorts, and the respective parish core team members have come together to form one new cohort team. Some people have wondered how these cohorts were decided upon. Well, first we consulted with core team members in every parish to ascertain their best advice regarding the makeup of these cohorts. After formulating a draft list, I consulted with the Presbyteral Council to hear their suggestions in light of their many years of experience and priestly ministry in parishes throughout the diocese. The revised draft list was sent back to the core teams for further review and comments. Finally, I reviewed the list once again with the Presbyteral Council, and having accepted the Council's recommendation, I informed the parishes of the approved list of cohorts, 22 in number. I believe the current division will serve the diocese and parishes well in their work of consultation and review. At this stage of the planning process, it is imperative that all of us, and in particular the cohort teams, understand and appreciate fully the realities and challenges we face as a diocese. I've noted on many occasions, changing demographics continue to play a critical role. We simply do not have the personnel, finances, or resources to maintain the current number of canonically independent parishes and parish structures. We continue to experience a decline in the number of available priests. Since my pastoral letter was published, 2 full-time priests and 2 senior priests are no longer available for ministry within the diocese. In July, a 3rd full-time priest will be reassigned by his religious superior. This month, we welcome 2 newly ordained priests, and new vocations are beginning to look promising. Nonetheless, while our efforts to encourage new vocations are bearing fruit, ordinations to the priesthood in the immediate future are limited. Any new vocations are at least 6 to 8 years away from ordination. In the meantime, we continue to be responsible for 109 churches, in which 222 masses are scheduled each weekend, 77 on Saturday evening, and 145 on Sunday. Parishes are finding it increasingly more difficult to support those essential aspects of parish life necessary for the work of ministry and to identify individuals. to teach religious education or lead youth groups, to serve as lay ministers and leaders of parish organizations and outreach programs, to serve as cantors and musicians for weekend liturgies, funerals, weddings, and other parish liturgies, to serve as members of parish pastoral and finance councils, not to mention the possibility of visiting homes to invite fallen away members back to the sacraments and parish life. It has been obvious for quite some time that the status quo is unsustainable. In the cohort meetings, parishes have the opportunity from a regional perspective to address these challenges, review the criteria regarding vibrant parish life, consider which model of parish structure is optimum for their situation, and determine the best way in which their parishes will be most effective in the work of evangelization. In the end, each cohort is responsible for recommending a vision for their future and summoning the courage to take the necessary measures to achieve that vision. The cohort teams have already begun studying the various parish self-evaluations, completing their own cohort evaluation, and deciding upon a cohort-wide suggestion and rationale for future parish structures and ministries. They will present preliminary suggestions before the end of May for review by the Diocesan Planning Commission in early June. The Diocesan Planning Commission will then respond to the cohorts with its own comments and recommendations. And later this fall, after further consideration of the Diocesan Planning Commission's response, the cohorts will submit their best and final recommendation. I have no doubt that the cohort teams have a difficult task. A few may be tempted to suggest no changes at all, mistakenly presuming that they will continue to enjoy the same leadership and level of sacramental ministry, the same personnel and financial resources as is the case today. There are also some skeptics who continue to believe that the bishop already knows the outcome of the study and has a list in his pocket of which parishes will merge. To some, this may appear an easier solution, but this has never been the case. I continue to trust in the process and the goodwill of the people. I know that some people are becoming anxious about the process and the possible changes. Is there enough time? How can we maintain our parish traditions? How will we weather the changes? Why must we change at all? As the first drafts of suggestions are made public, potential changes become real. People begin to experience not only the hope and promise of a more vibrant parish life, but also the uncertainty, sadness, even anger at the prospect of seeing their beloved parish merged into a new parish community. Having experienced this type of study and reorganization in the past, I understand these feelings, but also realize that these thoughts and emotions are a necessary part of the process and must not be overlooked. This was one major reason why I initiated the monthly holy hours. I knew it would be necessary to pray not only for guidance and inspiration in the decision-making process, but also for grace and encouragement to accept the necessary outcomes. At the outset, I acknowledged that this will be an emotional time for me as well, and that I am prepared to shed tears with my people. Because our people have loved and devoted themselves so deeply to their local parishes, such change will not come easy. And yet, we must keep in mind that ultimately the Church exists to evangelize. We are called to do the work of Jesus Christ to the best of our abilities, whatever the structures and resources available to us. To a greater or lesser degree, every parish will be asked to act in faith, trusting in the Lord. For many, they will be risking a journey into the unknown, especially those parishes which discern the need for merging with other parishes. And so I entreat all of you, my dear people, not to grow discouraged or even angry, but to embrace this grace-filled journey with courage and renewed commitment. I remain extremely optimistic that the Diocese of Saginaw has a wonderful future of life, ministry, worship, and service. This optimism is based on the conviction that everyone will work together, make sacrifices, and accept the changes necessary to be good stewards of the resources available to us. I wish to thank the priests, pastoral administrators, core teams, and volunteers for their time, patience, insight, creativity, courage, and above all, their faith and trust in the Lord. This is a time in which the entire Church of Saginaw, bishop, priests, deacons, religious, and laity, is called to listen to the Spirit and act upon the word of the Lord. I extend to all of you, my dear people of the Diocese of Saginaw, my deep appreciation and heartfelt support for you and your parishes as you continue in this difficult work of self-evaluation and planning for the future. May Mary, Mother of the Church, guide all our thoughts, words, and actions as we prepare for a future full of hope. God love you.